the Mario. Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario. Take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario. Do the Mario. Swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario. Take one step and then again. Let's do the Mario all together now. Come on now, just like that.
Eat the power-up mushroom of freedom and stomp on those evil turtles of tyranny. This is Thinking Liberty. It's Tuesday, March 8th, 2011.
Woohoo! Tyrannical turtles.
On thinkingliberty.net.
Oh, that was pretty awesome.
Well, I did the Mario, and I used Super Mario Brothers analogies for political conversation.
Darian was doing the Mario the entire time the Mario was on.
Not the entire time.
Most of the time.
Just a little bit.
I thought you were going to knock like the little headphone amp over and knock the mic over, and things are going to get crazy.
Mario is just too intense for Thinking Liberty.
That's what happens when you eat mushrooms.
But actually, this show is able to withstand that, so apparently Thinking Liberty is even more rockin' than you might think. So, we're on thinkingliberty.net. It's an interactive broadcast. You can interact with us via the chat room. Go to thinkingliberty.net. Check out the chat link. We've got contact info on the side. We've got phone, Twitter, Skype, and other stuff. Email.
I think like every way you can contact us, you can contact us now.
You can contact us every way that you can contact us.
Exactly.
CB.
We could do it. We could make it work.
Let's do it. Well, that would be awesome. We're just like...
I think we are officially more tech savvy than NPR, by the way, because on my drive up, they were doing their pledge drive, and they were saying that, after you pledge, you should tweet it on Foursquare. And I was like, really? Did you really just say that on the radio? And apparently they did.
Well, okay then.
That's good to know. You are now the mayor of not knowing how Foursquare works.
You are now the mayor of technological incompetence.
Exactly.
All right, so Bosco, you hurt your back the other week. Are you walking upright again?
I am actually feeling a lot better for a couple reasons.
Because you were doing the Mario?
Because I was doing the Mario. My job has gotten easier because somebody that I was filling in for and I picked up another class for and 2 more preps for has come back. So my life's easier because of that. And my butt feels better. And by the way, like your general character seems to radiate from your butt. So if your butt hurts, you hurt. And everything you say is mean. But once your butt starts feeling better, everything gets better.
All right, so you're not butt hurt anymore.
Exactly. Well, it still hurts, but like it's not as bad.
Well, okay then.
All right, so what are we doing today?
We're doing a show. It's called Thinking Liberty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was totally unaware.
We should introduce ourselves. I'm Darian. We've got Bosco over there.
Hello.
And Bio.
Bio, he's on the controls. He has, looks like, 2 laptops and the giant screen in front of him working now. A lot of glowing stuff over there with wires sticking out of it.
So much radiation.
We got lots of like cables and cool stuff like that, and cell phones and
cables and tables.
Our Foursquare tweeting device.
Yeah. So tweet us on Foursquare or 5Square or
whatever you kids these days is doing.
However many squares you got, tweet them. Tweet them good. All right, so it's International Women's Day today.
Woohoo!
Apparently it's the 100th International Women's Day that's been, annually.
Is it consecutive?
Yes, but they were the first 2 were not March 8th, I think.
So it's not consecutive.
It is consecutive because
as in they had them, but not on the not on the same day. Does that count?
It seems to be the general consensus that this is number 100.
I don't know. That it seems shady to me.
All right.
Now, does that mean if you are an international woman, that's what's being celebrated? Like if you're a domestic woman, that's not celebrated?
Yes, it's
That's
all
exactly
about
what it means?
all about the international ladies.
Oh,
And,
okay. All right.
no, it's
Wow,
not-
that stinks.
well, originally it was like kind of a socialist international working women's celebration about it was the early 1900s, so a lot of women's emancipatory struggles and the plight of poor women were issues that were being raised. I guess it was sort of analogous to May Day being the day for workers, and it was celebrated a lot in the Soviet countries, and then since the 70s, it's kind of had a resurgence in the West, kind of more as a celebratory, but also of I guess reflective means, and looking at how women are treated and viewed, and how things are around the world. There's actually what were you saying?
I was just going to say something definitely worth considering and definitely worth thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's half the population. How are they doing?
Well, pretty much. I mean, and you deal with a lot of gender issues still, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that people don't think about a lot, but it's important to just how life goes and how everything works.
I'll give you a crazy off the wall example. I was reading a article on the interwebs, where you can always expect when you're reading articles on the internet the comments to be insightful and great. It was a pretty good article, actually. I liked it. I think it was called "Why We Should Consider Firing Teachers" or something like that. And she was the author was making an argument for changing the tenure system and what that would mean and how that would affect turnover rates and a lot of things like that. And she's making some good arguments. The comments section, one guy offered this solution. He said, well, if we just forced women to have to work as teachers and nurses, then they would develop their minds more. This was his solution. He was like, we didn't have these problems in the 50s when those were your career options. So obviously the solution is to go back to that. It's that whole sort of like, well, if it's old, it must have been great. It's like, yeah, the 50s, I'm sure they were really swell.
Well, it's like the default is the 50s. Like that is like how everything should have been, or the 50s stereotype. It's not like this actually was how everybody lived.
Yeah, I don't know why people have it in their head that it was
Television.
so great. Yeah, like Leave It to Beaver and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, all right.
And the baby boomers, some of the older ones were born in the 50s, and so I think there's like a simpler age, blah, blah, blah. Like almost every generation, in my day, things were better. They were bad, but they were better.
Back when those other people knew their place, and
Back when I lacked the cognitive abilities to actually process what was going on in my environment, things were better. It's like, yes, you were sucking on your thumb, and that was great.
fantastic.
So anyway, International Women's Day. What other fantastic holiday is it today?
It is also Fat Tuesday, I believe.
Yes. And what is Fat Tuesday all about?
I guess it's about eating. It's before Lent, right?
It's before Lent. And if you were told that you had this time when you had to deprive yourself of something, what would you do in the time before you reached that moment?
Prepare.
No. It's the festival of excess. Right? It's all about getting everything out of the way before Lent.
So
which I think is a great
Christianity is
idea.
about binging and purging.
Well, no, I think you gotta get rid of the purge part. That's the part I disagree with. So you just extend, Fat Tuesday and the Mardi Gras celebrations, and you just extend that out, and you keep going with that. And the path of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Obviously, I'm interpreting that quote correctly.
You just power right on through Lent, right?
Exactly.
Just plow on through that.
There you go. And then you are hedonism bot. I regret nothing.
I apologize for nothing. But also, Women's Day news, there was a march in Egypt for International
I heard
Women's
about that,
Day,
yeah.
and didn't go so well. Apparently, women had been at the forefront of a lot of the uprisings in the Middle East, participating at pretty much every level. So naturally, it's Women's Day, and they're not seeing the new order include women, so there was a march to bring attention to this fact. And there were some men involved in the march too, but it was basically shouted down and then chased out of the square, Tahrir Square, I believe the name of it is, where the protest camp is.
Okay.
So not such good news, but I mean, the fact that they're out there and they're fighting for their liberty and to have their voices heard is a promising sign. You know, they're not just saying, "Okay, yeah, we accept that. Our time is over. We'll just go back to having boring lives." It's not happening. The revolution is still in progress.
But the fact that they are shouted down and chased out of the square,
Bad sign.
Not good. Yeah, not good side of that.
It was interesting. The people who were saying, the people who were opposing them were saying something like, this is not the time when women should be raising these issues. We're having trouble getting food for everyone, and we're having trouble saying things up. It's like, all right, but so the solution is to exclude women so that women will not have a chance to address any of these issues. It sounds like it's like step one, we solve these problems, then we think about talking about the women.
Obviously, our lack of freedom has led to several critical issues, and the solution is to restrict freedom while we work on those issues. And then when the issues are fixed, we can reinstate freedom again.
One thing at a time.
There you go. Makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense.
All right, so those are the holidays going on.
So how are you celebrating Fat Tuesday or International Women's Day?
Let's see. What did I do today that was exciting? Here's my big Fat Tuesday celebration. I went to Pizza Hut, and they served me
Pizza Hut?
Yeah, they served me a food that I don't consider pizza, right?
Yeah, that's the thing with Pizza Hut. It's not pizza, but it's still pretty good food.
It's a good food substance, but it's not pizza. It beats the heck out of California pizza.
I was gonna say it's more like pizza than anything that comes out of the state of California.
That's true. It's
including Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The best pizza that I had when I was in California was from Round Table, which is like 7 steps below Pizza Hut. But anyway, so I went to Pizza Hut with the wifey today and got some pizza. That I don't know who cut this pizza, but they had obviously failed trig or something like that because they couldn't find the center of a circle. So I had a ginormous slice of pizza and then a thin slice of pizza. So that was my Fat Tuesday celebration.
All right, there you go.
Delicious and
Good
oily.
times.
For lunch I had a chicken burger with avocado, and mayonnaise, and bacon. It's
Sounds
pretty good.
I had a Cliff Bar for lunch.
And then you cried.
No.
That's not fat.
And
enough.
then you managed to pry your leg out from under the log that had been holding you there for 14 days, walk into civilization, and eat McDonald's like a real American.
No. I really don't like McDonald's.
There's a lot of reasons not to eat at McDonald's.
One of them, however, is not that their burgers do not mold, because no burger of that size will mold. Have you heard that thing where like
that pissed me off so bad? Being someone who's like interested in science, and then seeing this stupid blog post where it's like, oh, McDonald's, it does
science.
Yeah, it doesn't mold. Like, watch this. And the first thing was it's covered in salt and fats, and it's dime thin, and it's drying out. And you could see that it was dried out. They're like, oh, it's not molding after weeks and weeks. It's like, I guarantee you if I take anything that's like that, like freshly made, it'll do the same thing. And in fact, other people did. And,
some guy actually got like premium like Angus beef, like ground meat, made a same size McDonald's burger, and like that didn't rot either.
Right, because it dries out, and with the salt and the fats, it's preserved. So...
You know what I saw recently? I watched it. It's on Netflix if you want to watch it yourself. I assume most people have seen Super Size Me. I watched this documentary called Fathead, where it's basically his rebuttal to Super Size Me. And it's an interesting little bit of propaganda in that the production quality is so incredibly low, and it is so heavy-handed in its libertarian stance that it's kind of like getting hit with a book. And you just like sit there, you're like, you've got a good point. If you tried to make this a little more entertaining and kind of like, stuck to some science too, you'd be okay. But I don't know, it's a really good example of the kind of thing that I try hard not to be like, but I know if I made a documentary, it would probably end up being like that too. I mean, all his ducks are in a row. His science is pretty good. He interviews some interesting people and things like that, and his idea is basically, okay, I'm going to eat McDonald's every day, and I'm still going to lose weight, is his idea, and he goes through the diet that he makes up.
See, first of all, if you're eating McDonald's every day, the am I going to lose or gain weight shouldn't be like the first question. The first question be, what the hell is wrong with you? Like,
well, I mean, he does has blood work done, tests his cholesterol, things like that, and he talks about the effects of all of it. And he has some good information on cholesterol, but just the presentation, some of the people he chose to interview, they look, a little bit scary to the point that you wouldn't necessarily want to trust medical advice from these people. His little animations he has looks like he kind of did them himself in Flash. All the music he got done by this one dude, and it's just some strange music. It's like
Liquid Sky.
No, not that strange. It's like a guy in a piano or in a synthesizer going like fathead, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, I'm a fathead, doo-doo-doo-doo, and like stuff like that.
Speaking of Liquid Sky, have you watched that yet?
No, I haven't.
Have you downloaded the soundtrack and listened to that?
No, I have not.
How can you make references to it then?
I've heard like a few seconds of the music, so.
Which, by the way, you can go to landofbile.com and click on the music section, and you can find all the tracks from the sound from the movie, and they're excellent. I swear.
So real quick, we were talking about Pizza Hut earlier. According to Zach in the chat, there, Pizza Hut has fired drivers that save the lives of themselves and others for carrying handguns. So that's definitely
a reason
something
not to eat at Pizza Hut.
Definitely something to consider. They consider their corporate policy and liability, I guess, more important than the lives of the people who are risking their lives by delivering pizza in dangerous areas. Or delivering a pizza-like substance.
Another interesting thing brought up by Zach, he talks about the Freakonomics documentary, and he mentions that it was directed by Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock, the guy who did Super Size Me, who also did a series called 30 Days that I think you can also get on Netflix. That my favorite, I think I watched all of 30 Days. My favorite part of 30 Days was when he'd put himself in somebody else's shoes for 30 days, and almost always the instantaneous reaction of that group of people is like, you pretentious New York, fruitcake, basically. They're like, we hate you. That's usually how it started out. Because, I don't know, when you deal with Morgan Spurlock, I can see how you could just get that hatred going in you for that particular type of person. So people seem to react that way initially. And then, to his credit, after working with people, he usually got along pretty well and, learned some interesting things. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily... I don't really, let's see how I can word this judiciously. I don't like his brand of science, i.e. he does 1/3 of the experiment and calls it done. And then he's like, okay, over. Everything's good. These are my conclusions. And it's like, no. It's a lot harder than that. You need to do some serious research, dude.
Now, I imagine, I haven't seen Super Size Me, but I believe that he didn't have a placebo where a guy ate fake McDonald's food only and
he didn't.
died because he was not eating food.
It's a lot of presenting a viewpoint too, as opposed to just this is how it is. Which, by the way, Fathead is a lot of presenting a viewpoint too. Talking about the exact same thing, I watched the BS episode with Penn and Teller on recycling, and I had a lot of issues with it. I was like, okay, I think this is the areas that they didn't explore enough, and this is some things they should have taken into account. And at the same time, I recognize that it's effectively entertainment, and they've got to be entertaining. And then the next day, I watched this video called Recycle This that was made in the early 90s and shown to high school kids to get them excited about recycling. And, when you hold Recycle This next to the BS recycling episode, it's like, well, their propaganda is in no way more heinous than this initial propaganda. So I almost kind of like having the other side be propaganda to balance it out.
Oh, there you go. So there's some discussion of chain pizza in the chat room. Now, I just want to know, for anybody who's in New Hampshire, is there good pizza in New Hampshire anywhere? Because I've had, okay pizza, but nothing that I would really say was good. I mean,
Yeah, I haven't had any pizza up there that would stand out in any way. Then again, like, there's this pizza place near me in Edgewater, New Jersey that makes just probably the best pizza I've ever had. So I guess that's not fair if my regular pizza is phenomenal. But yeah, it's probably better than California pizza. But that's not saying much.
Well, somebody in the chat room brings up a good point. They say, "What is good pizza?" And it depends. If you go where I live, Trenton, if you look at what started up in that area, they started with tomato pie, and they're really one of the first places to make a lot of tomato pies. So the establishments they've got there for tomato pies make really good thin crust, zesty sauce, little bit of cheese. You shouldn't have enough cheese that you can't see the sauce underneath, kind of tomato pie. That's a traditional tomato pie. And I like that because that's what I'm used to. But when Bile says California pizza is bad, I mean by every mark of pizza, it is bad. Like, the cheese does not taste good. The sauce does not taste good. The dough is not good. It is manufactured poorly. It will make you physically ill. It is not a good food stuff. Like, there's just so much awfulness in California pizza.
So Bosco and I were in California for a couple months. What was it, 2000? Summer of 2000?
Right, yeah.
And we tried every pizza place we could, from chains to the local establishments. And we went to a coworker's house, and we had a pizza. It was supposed to be a nice pizza that you bought in a supermarket or something, and you cooked yourself, but was already prepared. And we got so sick that night, like beyond anything that I've ever experienced. There was like projectile vomiting. I had like stomach cramps and was like twitching on the couch. We almost called the 911. It was so bad. It was like crazy. And then by the next morning, we both called out of work, obviously. Or actually,
We just didn't show up.
Yeah, we didn't call out. We just didn't show up. And then, but within like 24 hours, it was totally gone.
And it was weird. Well, if you want an idea of how bad it was, there was two of us in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we destroyed 2 bathrooms. Like, 2 bathrooms were just done.
Well, at least I didn't projectile vomit all over one.
That's true. That's true. There's a guy who slept there sometimes, who left his towel there. And I think he showed up a couple days later, and he's like, "Yeah, what's up with my towel?" I'm like, "It's in the wash. It needs to be washed. All towels in this place were used."
And all I remember, so like I was out in the living room, like I had stomach cramps and like back muscle cramps. So like I'm twitching backwards, like flexing backwards because of these cramps in my back, and then flexing forward because of my stomach cramps. And then all of a sudden, and I'm on the couch, and Bosco's in one of the bedrooms. He like all of a sudden runs out, slams into the bathroom. I don't think he closed the door. It was just like, bleh. It was like something out of a horror movie. Just
so
you did
awful.
The Exorcist on this pizza. So, what's your sample size though for California pizza? Like,
we had at least a dozen pies.
Yeah,
different pies.
We were in the North Bay area, so we had everything we could get. We had the best pizza they could find brought in from San Francisco, and it was mediocre. Like, it's like, okay, I would call this pizza, as opposed to the other things, which you put pesto on, so I don't know what the heck I'd call it.
yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of, I'll get the 99-cent slice of pizza in the booth in New York. It's like, it's okay. It's
all
nothing,
right.
Nothing bad. The 2 times I've got pizza in Philadelphia, it was awful. And it's like, I don't get it, because I've had decent pizza, like, elsewhere in Pennsylvania. It's like Philadelphia, it's like, what are you doing that's like not working out here?
For me, a good pie, it doesn't matter about the thickness. I don't care if it's thin or deep dish or whatever, but each component has to be independently good. So the crust has to be flavorful in and of itself. The sauce has to be flavorful in and of itself.
Right.
A little bit of spice I like rather than sweetness, and then the cheese, a quality cheese, not a food substance. And then the ingredients need to have a decent flavor, like good ingredients. Like each component you should be able to eat independently and as a meal, and then you place them together. And that was another thing about California pizza. We went, where did we go? Up north? I forget. It was like 2 hours or 3 hours north of San Francisco area, and we had, quote unquote, the best pizza in the area, and it had peppers and onion. All they didn't have any taste. And this was supposed to be the vegetables weren't good either. And it was supposed to be the best pizza in the area. So it was like someone just sucked all the lifeblood out of the pizza.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have the vegetables because you're like, don't you guys grow this in the Central Valley? Like, isn't this what California does? Like, you make vegetables. I thought that's how it works over here. And then the vegetables were still astoundingly awful. So I don't know what's up. But next time you guys are down by me, I know our friend Mike has had it 1,000 times, but we got to go to. There's a place called Top Road Tavern. We got to go there, or you can go to Di Lorenzo's Pizza and have a outstanding tomato pie, like an East Coast Award winner for several years.
All right, so we're talking about pizza here. Let's talk about a different food. I'm referring, of course, to mind fruit.
Mind fruit!
Which is always bland and tasteless. There's no way you can spice that up.
So, Bosco, what is mind fruit?
Oh, mellow mushroom. Oh, I'm sorry. Really quick. Mellow Mushroom was actually a fantastic time when we were down in North Carolina. Mellow Mushroom is another pizza place that has like all sorts of crazy things up on the walls and stuff like that. And they're like a bar. They have a lot of cool stuff on tap. And we ate at a Mellow Mushroom, and it was a good time. And then they showed us that they had stained glass in the back of like people eating mushrooms and smoking joints. And I was like, that's kind of cool in a pizza establishment.
So
anyway,
fruit.
continue.
I was asking you about mind fruit.
Oh, what about it?
Like,
What is it?
What is? How would you define
Define.
mind fruit?
If I think of something, right, that is the fruit of my tedious labor of thinking, and it is the fruit of my mind. So that is my mind fruit. That's what I have. It's this highly tangible object that I thought of.
Now, what's the vitamin content of your mind fruit?
Whatever you want it to be.
Oh.
Whatever I think the vitamin content is.
Whatever you think about vitamins.
Exactly.
They're these little smiley things that
Yes.
go into your blood and make you strong.
And make your blood smile.
Well, okay then. So we had an email from a listener about mind fruit, and according to ESPN.com, New York Jets linebacker Bart Scott, who introduced, quote, "can't wait" into the sports lexicon during a celebrated post-game interview in January with an ESPN reporter, revealed Friday on ESPN First Take that he has trademarked the phrase. So apparently this guy introduced "can't wait."
So he's got a trademark 2-word phrase.
Yes.
The phrase being "can't wait." Granted, one of the words is a contraction.
So it's kind of like 2.5-word phrase.
Could I trademark "cannot wait"?
And it's also implied that he cannot wait. So it's like it's saying I cannot wait. So I don't know. You should.
I should work towards that.
You should patent or trademark.
Trademark.
Should
Dude,
trademark.
Dude, if Kinsella was on here, man, you'd be done. Done.
Let's call up Kinsella right now and be like, this is Thinking Liberty. We're trademarking "cannot wait."
Mr. Kinsella, in our pockets collectively right now, we have $4.98, and we want to hire you to help us trademark this phrase.
We heard you're a mind fruit lawyer, and
Yeah, can't wait. That's some BS. Although, granted, it's probably one of the smarter things the Jets have done recently. After, as opposed to like harassing female lawyers and saying other incredibly stupid things. But yeah, can't wait. There you go. It's mind fruit.
it's mind fruit. So I'm just wondering what would be the penalty for violating this trademark?
Generally,
I can't wait to find out.
I think generally they just make you stop using it, and it's dependent on the field too that it's used. So is that only in football? Like, in what realm did he trademark that?
Maybe only in American football. What about like?
Or is it sports
What about
in
real
general?
football? Football like the rest of the world plays?
You mean like that game where they hit a ball with their feet?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about that.
Well, when I am playing American football, I know I can't wait. That's
You
what I'm
can't
saying.
wait. Can't wait to do what though?
I can't wait.
All right.
Can't wait.
There's no waiting. involved.
Exactly.
There's
There's
only
no
playing.
waiting. Only playing American football.
Okay, so I guess did we have some other Mind Fruit news with us, or
What's going on with my fruit?
I'm sure there's plenty. Well, it's related partially to Mind Fruit. See, Sony in their endless battle to attempt to reverse the fact that there's the Sony PlayStation 3 has been cracked wide open. They put in a motion to get to subpoena, I think, the IP addresses of everyone who visited his website,
GeoHot.
GeoHot's website, and
Viewed the YouTube video.
yeah,
right?
viewed YouTube videos. So that would be me and probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other people. And I don't know what the hell they're going to use this information for, because unless their lawyers are so dumb that the whole "we want to erase this from the internet" includes contacting every single person who went to the website and did you download this? Erase this from your machine.
erase this from your memory?
Well,
That'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think that'd be a first. I mean, they're sort of making the claim, from what I understand, in the lawsuit or whatever, that it needs to be erased from the internet. But obviously, that's not practical. And if they actually went after every single person that visited the website, that would be impressive.
Maybe Sony would end up bankrupting themselves, and then we wouldn't have this problem anymore.
Yeah, but then Uncharted 3 might not come out, so that's
What did I? Oh, here we go. Somebody saying on the subject of the PS3, a patent dispute in the UK has meant there's an injunction against Sony from importing the machines into the European Union.
Yeah.
There's about 2 weeks of stock left, they say, since no one can come in until the injunction ends.
Yeah, there's
The response
yeah, I
from
think
another
it's-
chat user is buy them now. Can't wait.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, over
I
here,
think
we got to
it's-
start loading up a large container ship full of PS3s, float that sucker over to Europe, and finance Thinking Liberty in perpetuity.
Yeah, I think it's LG, and they've got a patent claim for Blu-ray or something that they're disputing. So I'm surprised it
Interesting.
actually got this far, but whatever. Screw 'em.
I was looking at some interesting statistics of how well console games are doing versus online games. So, like, you're mentioning Uncharted, like Farmville versus Uncharted, as far as how many people play them, how often they get played, stuff like that. I think you're seeing a bit of a shift in the game market, but I'm not really smart enough to talk too much about it.
Well, I don't know if it's a shift. Well, I think you're going to have some shift with, like, very, very casual gamers who may have a Wii or something in the play, once or twice a month. But in gamers, there's not going to be a shift. Gamers don't play Farmville. They're going to continue to either play PC games or console games. And the hardcore people play PC games because they want to update their machine and have the best graphics. The people who don't want to bother with that or want some, more standard online experience, will go with the consoles. And I think we'll continue to go with consoles. And, your mother is going to continue to play Farmville.
Yeah, exactly. So you're adding a whole bunch of people to the game industry that weren't necessarily in there before.
Yeah,
So
primarily. Like people who would probably have done crossword puzzles
Right,
or
exactly.
like, random word games and stuff like that. I know my mother used to play Game Boy games, but she would only play puzzle games. Like that was her interest. But there weren't that many, and especially back then, the Game Boy was kind of a pain to bring around. But with smartphones becoming more popular, you're going to have more simple games like that people like to play in that regard, and then simple online games as HTML5 and Flash are, get better.
I know Darian is addicted to Angry Birds. We have to pry his phone out of his hand before every show, and he cries.
I've played it a few times. It's pretty good.
I've actually never played it. I have seen videos of it being played, and I really don't have much interest.
It's all right. I mean, it's a somewhat physics-based game, and those are kind of fun for a time, and then get
Kind of
bored of
reminds
it.
me of this game on the DOS computer back in the day.
The
That was
DOS
like-
computer? They
those-
made a disk operating system computer?
Yes, that was
Wow.
like-
Should hold on to that. Continue.
I know it's not actually called a DOS computer.
I
but
know. I'm enjoying it, though.
All right. So it was like two monkeys throwing bananas at each other.
Oh, yeah. Bananas.
That's what it was
It
called.
was a game.
Gorilla.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for
Rigging QBasic.
yeah, for QBasic, along with Snake.
Yes.
A good time.
But Angry Birds has better sound effects. It's definitely a good one to play with sound because
my phone actually came with a Gran Turismo game. It was like Gran Turismo Shift or something like that. And the extent of me playing this game was I ordered a couple slices of pizza and I turned the game on and realized you had to tilt the phone left to move left and tilt the phone right to move right. There you go. So I just propped the thing up on a straw so that it constantly turned left and hit the wall and ate my pizza and watched the phone to see how far my car would get just smashing into the wall.
Now, what
just
kind of
gonna
pizza
say-
were you eating?
Pepperoni.
I'm just going to say that it wasn't Gran Turismo.
What was it?
It just wasn't. I don't know, but it wasn't Gran Turismo.
Look it up. I don't know much about racing games.
Wrong.
Gran Turismo is the Sony Polytechnic game that costs like millions and millions of dollars to make and only comes out once every like 6 years.
There's a link in the chat room there. I believe we should click on that at
Click
some
on.
point.
the link.
We should clink on it.
Daily
Click on
Mail
it.
link.
What do we got here? What do we got? Oh, sorry. Need for Speed.
Yeah.
Shift.
Epic fail.
My bad.
Oh, man. All right, so I think we'll take a break and maybe we'll look at that article over the break. And when we come back, we're going to have more Thinking Liberty. So stay tuned because I cannot wait to get back and be bombastic.
Als sie ertrunken war und hinunterschwamm aus den Bächen in die tieferen Flüsse, schien der Opal des Himmels halt wundersam, als ob er die Leiche begütigen müsse. Tang und Alben hielten sich an ihr ein, auf dass sie langsam viel schwerer ward. Kühl, die Fische schwammen an ihrem Bein. Pflanzen und Tiere beschwerten noch ihre. Pflanzen und Tiere beschwerten noch ihre letzte Fahrt. Und der Himmel schien abends dunkel wie Rauch und hielt mit den Sternen das Licht in der Schwebe. Aber früh ward er hell, damit es auch für sie noch morgen und Abend gäbe, als ihr bleicher Leib im Wasser verfaulet war. Geschah es langsam, dass Gott sie vergaß. Zuerst ihr Gesicht, dann die Hände, zuletzt erst ihr Haar. Dann ward sie Aas in Flüssen mit vielen. Dann ward sie Aas in Flüssen mit vielem
We cannot wait to be free. This is Thinking Liberty.
Can't wait.
All right. So I believe we have a T-shirt.
So we've got T-shirt news. So last show, we offered a T-shirt to anybody who would send us the best little bit of hate mail. And we got a response, singular. Let me tell you what the response was. So the first one was a interesting little bit about the person liking our Mind Fruit commercial. And then the second part says, and I quote, P.S. Give me a shirt or I will sick Donald Rumsfeld on your butt. Donald Rumsfeld can kill anyone he wants. Donald Rumsfeld cuts off heads all the time. This guy is so crazy and awesome, he flips out all the time. I heard that this one time Donald Rumsfeld was eating, so this kid opened a window and Donald Rumsfeld flipped and killed the whole town. My friend Mark said he saw Donald Rumsfeld totally uppercut this guy because the dude dropped a spoon. So that's our qualified winner right there. We'll
Sounds
give
like
that guy a
Robert.
response.
Who's this? Robert Hamburger?
It sounds like kind of like Cliff Yablonsky mixed with Chuck Norris. All sorts of interesting stuff.
He can't stop thinking about ninjas.
But anyway, that person won a shirt. But we've got another shirt to give away this week too. So what criteria are we thinking for that?
I don't know. Best Mind Fruit establishment. Best trademark.
What?
The best trademark
Okay,
you can give us.
Let's take Darian's awful, foul, and rotted mind fruit that's just dripping out of his ears right now, and let's try to mush this together in some sort of gelatin
Careful
of
with my mind
usefulness. How about this? You send us an email. You give us the best example of stupid mind fruit that you can find.
How about like a
Like
best,
Can't Wait was pretty good.
like a good Thinking Liberty tagline, Mind Fruit?
Okay.
I-
Lori's
I-
got something to add.
Wait.
Here, give her a mic.
I win because I have the links to every YouTube video about Mind Fruit, and you know what I'm talking about.
She actually knows
I
this.
win, so just end the competition.
She knows this IP troll who I've
I
been
work with him.
she works with him. I've been thinking about getting him on the show.
I would advise against him knowing where we live.
Well, yeah, that's one thing, and I also want to make sure that it's a situation where I can hang up really quickly because he's the kind of guy who, when he's losing an argument, just seems to talk faster and faster and faster and
But
faster
I
and
almost
make
want
less
to see
sense.
him in the studio because it might push you to that like point where you actually punch a man. Because it's possible. It's possible.
Beat him with the microphone. I'm thinking of telling him, look, we're doing a 2-minute segment.
No,
Could you
just
please
tell
answer the
him-
following
This
questions?
is what you do. You tell him that we're having a 8-minute speed dating round in the apartment because he'll show up for that, like guaranteed. And then you guys can go back and forth. He'll look for all the women, and then you guys can talk about Mind Fruit.
For 8 minutes. Yeah, so you would win in that respect. But what are we doing with this? What are we thinking here? What was your idea, Bile?
I was thinking like they could come up with an awful Thinking Liberty tagline. Because right now, like bombastic talk radio or whatever we have.
Okay.
Something like that. Mind Fruit that fits that, Thinking Liberty. Meh.
All right, Thinking Liberty, something that we should trademark. Is that the idea? All right, so
Thinking Liberty.
It's just a suggestion. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine. That's my mind fruit. I'm just saying.
that's some good mind fruit. All right, so Thinking Liberty, and then what you think are trademarked and stringently enforced trademark. I mean, we're gonna knock people's doors
All
down.
your
and-
donations are going to go to suing people, which might make it difficult. Cause
We can call it Thinking Liberty for the Cure.
I don't even think we should. I don't even think we should sue people. I think we should take matters into our own hands, and we should hire Blackwater to enforce our trademark.
we don't get Koch brothers or Koch brothers, whatever, Koch brother money. So how are we going to hire Blackwater?
That's a good point. I didn't tell you about the Koch brothers thing.
No.
The other day, I was waiting in front of the door, and a courier drove up to the door, and he dropped off a check for $2 million. I was like, what the heck is this? So I start looking at the check. I'm trying to decipher it. I saw the name on it. I didn't know if it said Coke or if it said Koch. So I deposited the check. I took the $2 million to the one place where I knew I could get both the Vince Lombardi service area, and I split it 50-50. So I got, half of each of those. I liked one and not the other.
Damn it.
So we're out of money.
Damn it.
But anyway,
Well, when's our next check coming? Because
I don't know.
I mean, Blackwater's fine, but we need the money. Like, our donations are like, I don't know, what's the website say? Like $40 a month? That's just not cutting it.
Maybe we can hire like the Mexican knockoff brown water.
Oh, that's a terrible joke. All right. So anyway, so we can be official about this. So our contest is you email us Thinking Liberty, boom, what the trademark tagline should be. Worst one wins. You get a free T-shirt next week. Sound good?
Sure.
All right, golden.
All right, shower. So
Hopefully, we'll get more than one email this time.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
yes. So we had a link there in the chat room. Apparently, there was a guy from the British Constitution Group on trial for some tax law in England, and protesters stormed the courtroom, and the judge had to be escorted out. They were trying to perform a citizen's arrest on the judge, and then protesters were surrounding the area. I mean, it was. I think it said around 600 in the article. It was from the Daily Mail. It was kind of interesting. It sounded a lot like the common law type groups in the U.S. I got not really groups, but common law type activism in the U.S., like the sovereign citizen movement, things like that. And I mean, if you can make it work, that's one thing. But I don't really see.
There's speaking of that kind of stuff. There's so Julian Heiklin has this internal mailing list for all like the lawyers that are helping him out and a couple other people, and one of the lawyers is one of these sovereign citizen type or court of record, all this like common law court voodoo stuff, but he's apparently an actual lawyer and he's into all this stuff. And then you've got other lawyers, and man, they're just like 50 deep threads of them attacking each other and going back and forth, and like there's no such thing as a court of record anymore, blah blah blah. Like you're just totally making crap up, and it was just awful. Like
Dizzying.
I couldn't stand to read it. Just going back and forth, and like if any of that stuff is true, then more power to you. But the evidence is fairly stacked against you, if not theoretically, but practically, because they generally don't seem to do anything about it. But he keeps pushing Julian to issue like challenge the judge's authority or some stuff. I don't know what all the buzzwords are, but and Julian doesn't understand any of it either, so there's all these like requests for information. I think the website's like 1215.org or something. It's got a bunch of information. I don't know, but it's really funny to watch lawyers battle back and forth about this stuff.
It's like how much is this argument really going to work against the state? I mean, the state has to have some veneer of legitimacy to it, but it's really backed up by force. And if there's hardly anybody who believes what you're trying to tell people, then that doesn't have much popular sense of legitimacy. So what kind of lawyer is this guy who's arguing this? Like, is he actually like is he actually
I don't
practicing
remember.
law or
A magic lawyer?
I'd have to look it up. There's this one guy, Bill Thornton. I don't know if he is, but there's Bill Thornton, and what's the other guy's name? I don't remember. But they're on the Tyranny Fighters mailing list. So if you're on that list, you can see all the names, and they kind of fight on there too. So, but it's rather entertaining.
What's Julian Heiklin up to anyway?
He is in Florida right now. He's he recently got kicked out of FIJA. Not kicked out so much. He got removed, or his membership was refunded because
From the Fully Informed Jury Association.
Well, yeah, the AJI, the American Jury Institute, which does FIJA or is a superset of FIJA,
Okay.
whatever. So there's this thing in Florida where this Judge Perry passed a ruling saying, or a judge, whatever it was, saying that no one can hand out like jury nullification info on these couple county on the county property there for the courthouses, or you'll be found in contempt of court. And being found in contempt is bad. You get no trial, and they can put you away practically indefinitely. It's really BS. But so the ACLU, maybe the Florida ACLU or just the federal ACLU, has filed like briefs on AJI's behalf and all this stuff. Well, Julian basically said that, well, this is a great opportunity. This is an infringement of the First Amendment. I'm going to go down there and I'll pass out stuff. We'll see what happens. And Elo, who I guess is the head of AJI or FIJA or whatever, she freaked out. She's like, "You can't do this," because apparently what can happen is, supposedly, and I've looked into this a bit, but James Cox wasn't able to explain it to me in a legal sense. He just said this is what the lawyers claimed, that if one court, if a case in one court could mess with the powers of another court, then they will abstain from doing anything about it. Because, if a federal court is unsure about something the state court is doing and there's already trial going, like, you can either like preempt or take over the case, or not take it over, but if it'll affect a greater jurisdiction, they just won't do anything about it. Like, you get preempted by this other case, and so there's no conflict. You're not challenging the other jurisdiction. That's how, as I understand it anyway. And so they're afraid that if Julian goes and gets arrested and is found in contempt, the case that arises out of his arrest can preempt their case against the judge. And therefore, if he's held indefinitely, it can totally tie up everything. And it seems very impractical. I can't imagine this actually occurring. But even so, when I looked up whatever the hell the phrase is, the legal phrase, on Wikipedia and tried to follow how it works, it seems to happen sequentially. So it's not like you can totally be preempted. If the case is already going forward, then another case can't kick it out. It just it just can't go forward, the second case. So legally speaking, I'm kind of I question their reasoning. But what ended up happening is Julian and this woman got into a huge fight online, and he said, "No one tells me what to do. This is BS. This has nothing to do with FIJA." In the same way that if someone was found or was arrested for handing out Playboys, that Hugh Hefner would have he has no say in what I'm doing with Playboy. He can't tell me not to hand out Playboy. It's a First Amendment issue. It has nothing to do with Playboy. It's like FIJA, just because it's their literature, has nothing to do with them. It's a First Amendment issue. So if I want to go down there, hand out jury nullification information that happens to be from FIJA, screw FIJA if they're trying to tell me I can't do this. So he sort of got indignant about it, and then she's like, well, and he goes, well, you can just kick me out. Basically, you can cancel my membership if you're so afraid of me being affiliated with FIJA. So in the next email, she's like, okay, I've canceled your membership. I'm refunding your money. And so he put that in an email the other day, and some people made a big deal out of it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but he's down there in Florida now for the next 2 weeks, I think, and it's going to be causing more Julian problems.
I like how they're Julian problems.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, if they're not really, if they don't want to affiliate with him because they think it's going to hamper their efforts, and he's, offers that to just cut it off, I don't really see what the big deal is.
I don't have a problem with that, though. I think it's kind of childish because their claim is that even if he's not associated with them, any case that comes up so if anyone, not Julian, but anyone got arrested under this new rule, they could preempt their case. If that's the case, then, okay, he's trying to do it purposefully. I understand that you can actually direct some conversation that way and attempt to convince him not to do that if you think that's going to be the case. However, this could happen to absolutely anyone, so it seems kind of silly and has nothing to do with his direct affiliation. So it seemed more personal than anything, but whatever.
Okay, now, Bile, you had recently some more news about your
my photography case.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, I had a couple students contact me about my case, asking. One was an architecture student, asked me weird questions about that area, and then another student was doing something about freedom of the press and asked some questions. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I got an email from someone from Newsmuseum. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's news and museum is one word. And they're like, I guess it's an actual museum in Washington, D.C., and it's just newsmuseum.org, I think. And they asked, they're doing a piece on the First Amendment in the news, and so they want I guess they're going to be talking in some video for the First Amendment section of this museum. They're going to have a video and in it they want to include photos of me and I guess talk about my case or something. So I've got to get photos for them so I can be in this museum.
So you're going to give them a picture of you with a pin sticking out of your eyelid?
I was thinking that, and just like photoshopping very poorly, like a camera on the side of the image, because they want a camera in the thing. So I was like, I'll put a like a Bosco's Hannah Montana camera, like in the corner of the image with the pin sticking out of my eye.
I really want like a cardboard bile cutout at the front of the museum where like the hand waves back and forth and it's like, "Hi, welcome to the museum. Feel free to take photographs. Hi, welcome." I want that.
All right, so that's what you want.
I'm
So
sure we could get one of those made.
It's true.
Just show up and stick it there. What the hell is this?
Banksy status right there. Yeah, we'll just add our own. Boom, new exhibit.
we should have something like that for Porkfest. Just cutouts of us. Just leave them.
That'd be awesome.
'Cause that's
Thinking
not
Liberty
creepy.
everywhere.
Oh boy.
We have to figure out what we're doing. Speaking of which, for that day, because I'm not doing the show and then going up to Porkfest.
Oh,
Why wouldn't you want to do that? You know what I was thinking would be a good idea for Porkfest, since everybody's going to be there, is just everybody going around and getting any interviews they can, right? Like just
we'll have like a giant like tape recorder with a shoulder strap and like
you could. That's probably the way I'd do it. But I mean, we are capable of converting audio. We could collect interviews from all sorts of interesting people. I personally want to interview the people who run like the little food stand down there, because they made the best breakfast burrito ever, and I'd like to learn more about
with
that.
the Our Food Your Gullet people.
Yes,
Wow.
it was delicious. They're not going to be there this year? Oh, bummer. Well, I could interview other random people with good food.
All right, so you're gonna do food interviews.
Yes.
Maybe you should do this with what is it? The one pot cook-off contest. Just
I love that contest. That is such a fantastic
And
contest.
show up with a spoon.
Yes, show up with a spoon.
okay. So again, that's Porkfest. PORC.
Speaking of which, yeah,
FEST.
PORCFEST.com. Speaking of which, two small announcements. So there's this band called Vast that I really like, and they've got this. It's a small band, and they used to be a bigger band, but I guess lost their label or left their label or whatever. Their website is realvast.com, and he's raising money to work on his next album. And if you can buy pixels on his website in 12 by 12 blocks. So I bought 36 by 36 pixels for $45. Thinking Liberty advertisement on the main page. So if you go to realvast.com, there's like this big grid, and you should very easily see, because I think it's the biggest one there, except for the ones the band put up. There's a Thinking Liberty bombast thing, and it'll click through to our website, and it actually tells you how many times it was clicked. So we can actually see what our return on investment is. And if you donated or bought $50 worth of stuff, you'll get free downloads of all the music that they put out this year. Since and so I donated I put in another $5. I bought a 12 by 12 and put a Porkfest advertisement there because I didn't know what else to put. So
Well, there you go.
Sounds
Bile
good.
on the pixels there.
on the pixel.
I'd like to point out that our chat room banner now in studio says Northeastern University College of Business Administration, Master of Science in Taxation. There right there is a libertarian degree for you.
MST 3000.
What's your degree in? Oh, I got a Master of Science in Taxation. Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's scientific.
I got a BA in coercion too. You know, it fits well. Oh
there
boy.
you go. So let's get into some news here.
News you can use.
News. I guess you can use it.
Teeth you can lose.
So Bradley Manning, the alleged WikiLeaks whistleblower, now not allowed to have any clothes with him. Is it ever, or is it what's the deal here?
From what I understand, it's currently he's not allowed to have clothing because he's on suicide watch or something. I didn't read into it too much. What I don't understand is why they don't give them paper clothing, which is what they normally do in most jails and prisons. So,
Well, I mean, it's part of the whole psychological torture that they're subjecting him to.
I would think paper clothing would be good enough. I mean, it's not like it does much for you. And he's locked in a cell. Like how much more worse could it get? You're locked in a cell for 23 hours a day. You get basically very little human interaction, and you have to sit in a paper dress. I mean, so he has nothing on. It makes it much worse. I don't know if that's the reason, or maybe they're out of paper dresses.
According to one of our listeners, he is allowed to wear underpants some of the time. I know that's the policy in my house.
So, well, I mean, it's really it's a factor of humiliation, I think. I mean, they're wearing this guy down. They're making an example of people who are going to shed light on crimes that the government does, and that's what this whole thing is about. So.
It's amazing how par for the course this is. Like I was reading the other day about sensory deprivation, totally unrelated to prisons and stuff like that. Initially, like I was reading, I wanted to see what kind of studies there's been done on sensory deprivation, and a lot of
just one of my hobbies.
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those things that I'm like, wow, that's really interesting how your brain responds to this lack of stimulus. I'm like, let me learn more about this. And a good chunk of the examples are like, well, while so-and-so was being held in military prison, they were subjected to, 36 hours of sensory deprivation, and the following things happen. It's just like, holy crap, this is, this is kind of normal. Like a lot of the examples and a lot of the things were just about prisons, specifically military prisons, and they were using this as a technique to do things to people and things like that. So it seems to be unavoidable. You can't really get around the torture thing if you're at all interested in how people work and things like that. A lot of these experiments seem to get back to BTW, the government tortures people. Just in case you didn't know. Speaking
of which, Obama, I guess, signed off on indefinite detentions and non-trials basically for people at Guantanamo.
Well, re-enabled the tribunals, right? So they had suspended them for a while and reevaluated that it was totally cool. And
yeah, it's
now
cool
it's
now.
back.
Now that other countries don't want our random people that we have locked up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like these people have just been in prison for about 9 years or so. No trial. There's nothing really. They haven't been convicted or of anything. Just the military says this person's guilty of being a terrorist. We're just gonna lock them in this place and not give them access to lawyers. And it's pretty. I mean, it's like, yeah, whatever the official stance is, government is going to do bad stuff. But when they actually make it official that they can treat people so badly, it's like, all right, so A, what are they not telling us about? And B, they're saying that this is okay. They're establishing this as a precedent. So it's going to be easier for them to do this. And it just lowers the bar on human decency that much more.
That's what I was talking to Bile about earlier. I was like, if Bush had ever tried to say explicitly, oh, here's my rules for indefinitely detaining people, and, have it out there in words as an executive order, this is how things are going to go down, people would have freaked out. Now, Bush is a sneaky jerk, so he was like, we're going to do it anyway, right? Like, kind of thing, and continued to do it anyway. And Obama was going that way for a while. He's like, oh, we'll do it anyway. But then now he's got this thing that, in my opinion, is even worse, when he's like, oh, no, it's cool because I'll throw some executive order at it, and I'll give you these words, and we'll codify it, and it'll be all right. Like, here's the procedure for how we do this horrible, awful, indefinite detention thing. And now it's cool, right? Yeah, like, it really, it kind of ticks me off.
This actually reminds me of some. I was watching the Onion News Network. They have a new show on IFC.
Good source for news.
Great show. One of their stories was, for those who are unaware, I don't know, maybe some of our listeners live under a rock or something, but the Onion is a satirical news agency. It's like a comedy group that creates fake news, and so anyway, on their show, there was a story that Obama had been kidnapped and was being an imposter was serving as the president of the United States. And when when they found the real Obama, he was like recovering, and he like signed all this stuff like rendering void all the things the imposter did. And it's just really funny because it's like, okay, this is like what people kind of were hoping Obama would be, and it's like, oh well, actually he's a politician who is
surprise.
who's
Your president stinks. Don't say we didn't tell you.
So good.
There's
another good one real quick on the Onion was it was a story that American workers now have the right to cry in the stairway for, I forget, it was like for like 6 minutes a day they're allowed to go to the stairway to cry before getting back to work. And if they save up their time, they can use it for an extended 30-minute breakdown at the end of the week.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was legit. It's sad when the Onion, like, occasionally it happens where an Onion story is picked up by people and they think it's legit. And that's one of those stories that I can imagine that occurring with.
So, all right. So, what do we got? LibertyActivism.info. There was some new info posted there.
There was some great new info. We got a listener who goes by the name G Rizzle in the chat room, and they were listening to us talk about making T-shirts and that sort of stuff. And he actually contributed a whole bunch of interesting info on screen printing and things like that. So if you go to LibertyActivism.info and you click on the Make Your Own T-shirts link, or you search for Make Your Own T-shirts, you can find a nice new section on screen printing. So it was nice to see some more stuff popping up on there.
So you could make shirts that are better than the ones Bosco makes.
Yes, you can easily make shirts that are better than the creepy ones I make in my basement.
But will they contain as much love?
Well, I don't know. I wash the love out of the shirts before I send them, because otherwise they don't fold.
Oh, how much love is really washed out? I mean, you just throw it in the bucket with the rest of the
That's
stuff,
true.
right?
Yeah, it does just end up in the wash bucket. So the bucket of ass water.
It's now a bucket of love.
Oh boy.
Speaking of brown water, our defense agency that we're hiring to help us steal from other people. It's brown water. So,
what the heck is wrong
Where
with
were
you? What is I know what you were talking about, but that joke was just, oh wow, I don't even know. That was rough.
Yeah,
that was brutal. I think we might need a break. I think we might need a break right now. We might need a break so we can beat the snot out of Darian. This is why we might need a break.
Epic fails.
Epic fail. Do we have music queued up?
So, what,
I guess.
what's the fail here?
Where were you going with that? I have no
wasn't going anywhere. I was just I went where I needed to go, and then I thought we were ready to move on.
What?
It was just an aside.
We're gonna move on. All right.
We talked about.
We're gonna moveon.org.
I love their emails.
Did you get another moveon.org email?
Are
yeah.
they about ass water?
No, it's not about ass water. They're so, like, Bosco, you love propaganda. Like, you should sign up for MoveOn.org because they're so, like, hyperbolic and just emotional about every topic. It's totally the end of the world, no matter what it is, and they need your money. Like, we should just start sending out. I should take MoveOn.org emails as templates and maybe just sending them out to, like, random conservative groups or something, and maybe we can just. Because we have liberty in our name, we can just convince people to give us money.
Well, obviously, if there's liberty in the name, you know that they're for liberty, right?
Right. So if I send out these like
the
crazy,
campaign.
MoveOn.org type emails with the $5 is all it takes for us to fight the evil Democrats or something like that, and we could make millions probably. They'll send out an email and make hundreds, thousands of dollars in like a day. Like, how much... We wouldn't need the Koch brothers after that. I mean...
That's true.
But would you be stealing their mind fruit in doing so?
Stealing their mind
Yeah, that's a good point. If you copy their words...
Stealing.
Their words are a symbolic representation of their mind fruit.
That's true, but let them sue me. That's fine. It's okay until I get caught.
We can just continue using their template to raise money for legal funds to use for more fundraising letters.
Come on, think about it. We're being attacked by MoveOn.org. Think of the money we could get out of that.
That's true. We would get a lot of money.
Savage liberal assault on our right to free speech.
Oh, speaking of
Frothing at the mouth.
speaking of savage liberal assaults, did you hear the NPR head of fundraising got busted in a sting talking about conservatives disparagingly? Apparently, some people with a microphone went to talk to him to try. They wanted to donate like $5 million or something to his cause. That was their pretense, and they asked him these questions about how he feels about conservatives, and they asked him what would happen if NPR lost public funding and all this different sort of stuff. And he apparently did astoundingly poorly in his answers and was just like very typical. How did I hear it described? A guy said he was like, you know, that sniveling liberal stereotype that you always see on Fox News? He apparently took all his cues from that, because that's exactly how he sounded, like not caring about anybody else's views or anything.
Oh, I work in Manhattan, and I very regularly come across that stereotype in person, and it's like it's you see it on TV and you're like, oh, they're just getting hyped. No, there's lots of Manhattan people that are exactly like that. And it's just like, I don't even like the Republicans, and when they start freaking out and like foaming at the mouth over like some Republican, it's very off-putting and freaks me out.
See, I work with the people I work with who are really political are usually neocons or Tea Partiers, which makes them very funny. So they're like, they're taking our jobs, like kind of like just straight up. It's all about immigration and how awful that is.
There was after compensation came out earlier in the year, everyone sort of goes out to the bar afterwards, and you've got important, MDs and EDs, which are like high-ranking people in the company, or relatively high-ranking, and it was a bad year, so everyone's like loathing and drinking, and my manager says, oh, you shouldn't. He's good with like economics and stuff. You should talking to someone who's like totally plastered. And he's like, you need to come out drink or to lunch with us more often. He's like, there's all these freaking liberals, and they say all this dumb stuff, and you sound educated. You can like totally put them in their place. I'm like, I'll put them in their place when they're wrong, and when they're right, I'll support them. He's like, no. You need to.
That's not how it works.
You need to just ream them good. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I haven't been invited to lunch yet.
That's
It's
pretty much
all
what it is at
about
work.
destroying the enemy. That's how
apparently, however the enemy is characterized.
So what's going on with this move on letter you're talking about? Or
Oh, it was nothing in particular. I mean, I could probably look them up.
someone
but,
in the chat room asked what they said about Obama's indefinite detention stance.
Oh, they won't bring that up.
Yeah, I doubt MoveOn.org will bring
Let's
that up.
move on. Let's look forward, not back.
But I bet you Fox News is like all about that. After voting for the Patriot Act, they're like, we can't believe Obama's doing this.
I saw a good a tweet from
someone.
someone.
Oh, go ahead.
I forget who it was, but he says, "Here's someone who is like, doesn't this guy know he's supposed to look forward, not backward?" And it was like a Guantanamo detainee who was released because there's actually no evidence that he had done anything, suing the government for, basically psychologically torturing him.
Good times. Yeah, it's you can have a lot of interesting conversations with people who really believe that they don't have I have trouble arguing with people who don't have ideologies. They have collections of single things and opinions on each individual thing, which really just kind of flabbergasts me, because I'll be like, all right, well, here we go for the millionth time. This is why I have chosen to believe this, and this is the basis that it comes from.
First principles.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's your opinion? Well, Mexicans are destroying the school system. Like, that's not a. Come on, give me something behind that. Like, do you have any facts, or did you read a book, or no? All you got to do is look at it. It's like, what?
They're
Are you serious?
outsiders. They're different from us. The problem is obviously not from us, so it must be from them, and we need to get rid of them.
Apparently, dude, it's all immigration and healthcare. Healthcare is the other one that people want to argue about, and nobody wants to talk about defense spending though. I got to get my my death and taxes poster so I can be like, look at the small chunk of the pie you are arguing about right now. Look at the ginormous chunk of the pie over here.
Speaking of which, so I pulled up some from my trash bin, some of the MoveOn.org emails. They have subjects like shocking, all hands on deck, immoral, devastating, arrest warrants, we could lose Wisconsin. Those are the subjects.
Kind of erotic. Anyway, continue.
Sure. You know, the first sentence in the most recent one from today is entitled "Devastating." It says, "Did you see the email sent yesterday about the horrific impact of the GOP's budget proposal? If not, it's below."
Wait, hold on. Did you see the email we sent you yesterday? That's seriously how they're starting this
That's
message?
the opening, yes.
It's a letter from the central bureaucracy.
It says Congress needs to hear from all of us right away because the only chance that we have to stop this budget is for state Democrats stand united against it, blah, blah, blah. And it's got this email from Lautenberg, which I'm sure is totally cool. Yeah, and then they've got like a copy of their email from yesterday, which I probably also didn't read entirely. But, you know, what was it on... David Friedman's website. David Friedman, I guess self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist. He says he likes pointing out just facts and figures and random, making connections between things. He says, okay, there's all this talk about the budget. The Democrats are proposing like $6-ish billion, cuts. The Republicans are about 10 times that, so it's about $60 billion. Like on the highest end that anyone with except for Rand Paul, is talking about cutting, is like less than 2% of the entire budget. And Rand is proposing like $500 billion. He doesn't have a chance in hell of getting, a quarter of that. But then you look at what the facts information came out today to go along with like what Friedman was talking about. February was a record for a month deficit of the United States. They ran a if I understood it correctly, $223 billion deficit just for February. So, I mean, just in a general sense, the Democrats are talking about cutting $6 billion, and they're in deficit $223 in 1 month, and they're talking about 1 year worth of cuts.
So the system's kind of on really scraping the bottom here.
I always kind of liked... especially when you get into the facts and figures, the people who argue the, let's kick this flaming dumpster down the hill sort of theory. Like, well, what we should propose is more spending, as much spending as possible until the government implodes kind of idea. Which,
you don't even need to do that. They will do that. Like, those people just don't understand that's the natural tendency. That it will get that bad anyway. Well, I mean, history shows that. I mean, general economic theory shows that, or public choice theory shows it's easy to go in the direction we're going. It's difficult to go to the opposite direction.
Go back.
Because you just don't have the interests or the incentives are in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when government cuts spending, I mean, I like to point this out that, people recognize that government is often in the pockets of people with political pull, the campaign contributors, the big players who can get them votes. And
Koch brothers.
And, but government doesn't stop being government when it starts presiding over its own reductions in spending. I mean, it's decreed by politicians, administered by bureaucrats with political pull. They're still responding to all these political incentives, and they're not going to cut the things that are keeping them in power. They're going to cut the things that they think they can, get away with spending a little less money on for show. Maybe sometimes they'll just stop funding something or just shut down a service to show how much we really need them. Not stating the fact that if we didn't have the government in the first place, We could just have this service. We could have someone compete against it. We could have someone else take over the management of it. They basically just want to show, okay, we're in control, and this is how it has to be, and all the belt tightening has to be done at the bottom.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at from what I understand, the Democrats' proposals of $6 billion, which again is like totally nothing, is all about taking organizations that are, and I think the government or congressional budget organization or whatever the hell it's called came out with all like there are 15 different organizations that all deal with like wildfire checking or something like that. You know, all these organizations within the government that all do more or less the same thing or have overlapping responsibilities. And many of the cuts are actually just trying to consolidate this totally wasteful bureaucracy, you know, the effects of all this bureaucracy in the first place, left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing. And it's not actual, like, yeah, there might be some real cuts, but it's nothing. I think getting back to, I mean, for those people who still are not going to give up their government religion, simple facts and figures that really make people double think, or, you know, I think Ron Paul was, during 2008, brought this up all the time. You know, what did you think of the government in 2000, or in, 1998 when Clinton was leaving office? Is it too big, too small, just right? Most people say it was just right or too big. It's like, if you could completely get away, like if you cut government back to that level of spending, you can totally get rid of private income tax. Like, just to put things in perspective of like how much total bullshit the federal government does and has increased in spending in just the past decade. You know, in our lifetime, the amount that they've increased, the amount more crap money they waste on things that people don't see. Like, you can't, in 50 years, you can raise the spending $1 trillion and people don't understand the scope, but they understand 10 years and they can understand $1 trillion and like doubling the budget. So those kind of things, like, I think really can hit home for just about anyone of any political sphere.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to look at what a lot of the money is being spent on is either military industrial complex stuff or prison industrial complex or security contracts. I mean, everything. The airport scanners was a political contract. Someone lobbied to get these, and then now this company's making a lot of money off of this.
The health benefit programs. I mean, I think most of us would agree that if we had to choose between health benefits and bombing brown people, we would take the former. But under Bush, I mean, one of the biggest, was it the not Medicare? What the hell was it?
Medicaid?
Yeah, whatever they passed under Bush, I forget now. But that
prescription drug benefit?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that was a huge thing, and it adds to the, you know, them not being able to cover it and whatever, Social Security issues, all those things, like that. All those things are already like half the budget, and are already unfunded.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, if you're trying to, say, cut the budget from inside the system, you're basically cutting out support that people have, because the alternatives or the option to make alternatives has kind of been supplanted or displaced by government action. So the way to go about this is to build the institutions or build the networks or organizations outside of government, so that there are these other options that people can turn to. There are, there is something to fall back on. There is an alternative to the state, and there is something that people can go to satisfy their basic needs.
I definitely think that's right. I think you're kind of in a world of hurt if you're trying to change it from the inside. But anyway, we got somebody on the line. We got Tennyson. All right.
Hey,
what's up, Tennyson?
I don't know how much of a delay there is on there. Is there any delay?
No, we can hear you right away.
Excellent. I can hear you guys very well. So I'm here on the other side of the world, and it's been pretty good. I just got in, so that's why I'm calling a little bit late. But, I got in from the airport, and funny thing I found inside my bag in the airport, because I noticed first that the zippers were in the wrong place. I didn't leave them there. I opened the bag, and inside is a note from the TSA explaining that they opened my bag, and it was just for my own safety. But here, let me look at and read this note here.
That sounds like a good time.
It's always a good time. So here it says, notice of baggage inspection. To protect you and your fellow passengers, the Transportation Security Administration is required by law, and they cite the law, to inspect all checked baggage. As part of this process, some bags are opened and physically inspected. Your bag was among those selected for physical inspection. During the inspection, your bag and its contents may have been searched for prohibited items. At the completion of the inspection, the contents were returned to your bag. If the TSA security officer was unable to open your bag for inspection because it was locked, the officer may have been forced to break the locks on your bag. TSA sincerely regrets having to do this. However, TSA is not liable for damage to your locks resulting from this necessary security precaution. For packing...
this isn't the end of it?
No, this is for packing tips and suggestions on how to secure your baggage during your next trip. Please visit tsa.gov.
Wow, fantastic. I love the fatalistic language that they might have been forced to break the lock for this necessary procedure of looking through your stuff for your safety.
The hands of fate have so moved them that they are now they're the objects, the tools of fate to open your bags, not because they've chosen to, not because they arbitrarily wrote this law to benefit themselves, to give you a little bit more power, to give them a little bit more power over you. It's because fate has consigned them to this doom. And
it's very important. But now you're safe.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about anything in that bag hurting you.
And I today was kept safer by, I think it was the New Jersey State Police, while on the bus going into Manhattan this morning, I stopped by there's the Weehawken Marina, or where they've got a boat that goes across to Manhattan. And across the street is a light rail that goes like into Newark, I think.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Right, and so that stop I hit every day, and today I was in the back of the bus reading my phone, reading the news, and we're at the stop a little bit long, and I look up, and there's a state policeman standing right in front of me, staring at my feet. And not focusing on me, but he's like pacing, looking back and forth into the seats and walking back and looking through all the seats and what's on the ground. And I just totally bewildered look over, because they're not wearing normal police uniforms. They're wearing like lighter blue jumpsuits almost. And
Weird.
I turn over and I look down to the front of the bus, because it's one of those joined buses with the two halves.
Oh yeah.
And so I look all the way to the front, and there's a dog, a canine, with its holder, and at the very front of the bus, getting off, and then I look out the window, and there's two cops, and I can't remember if they had if they had sidearms or if they had rifles or whatnot. I didn't have enough time, and I tried to get out. I tried to turn my phone on for the camera so that I could get a photo of the cop standing right in front of me. And I was too slow to do so. And then on second thought, I was like, if I actually took the picture, I probably wouldn't have shut off the flash, and it would have that would have been bad for me, I suspect. Even though New Jersey is a one-party recording state and all that kind of stuff, I imagine the cop would not be very happy. But
He probably wouldn't have appreciated that.
I was so enraged. That stuff just like whenever I get stopped by the subway cops or the TSA in the subway, I just get so enraged. Or if I even see anyone getting stopped, it just pisses me off. And so it ruined the first 3 hours of my morning.
Now, you said they're wearing blue jumpsuits. Are you sure they were cops?
Yes, they had shields on.
I was going to say, because somebody like me might, board buses with my dog just to prove a point. So I could be like, I've been boarding buses for months and looking at stuff, and nobody's ever asked me a darn thing.
I mean, I guess that's always could always be the case, but they had these lighter blue jumpsuits, a little bit lighter than jean color, like average jean color.
Okay.
And but they had, it said New Jersey. They had shields, big shields on their shoulders, and it said, New Jersey something or other. I couldn't quite see. Again, we started the move as soon as I really paid attention to what was going on.
Yeah, I figured this is where the Homeland Security money is going into, getting people special jumpsuits with special colors, and they can go onto buses to justify that use of some money.
You gotta call that if you see something, say something number. Be like, holy crap! There's guys with guns on the bus and they've got a dog.
Well, I've seen paramilitary types at the train before, but they never got on the bus. They were just standing there, and I think I noticed it was when something was going on in New York too. So I saw increased police presence in the subways. Occasionally, I'll see that in New Jersey on light rail, but they never got on the bus. And this was like, if you've read about, I think Indianapolis, the TSA was doing tests where they were searching buses at major bus stops and stuff. And if this is
in Florida, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. I thought it began with an I, but whatever. In any case, they've done this on buses in some places. They've done it on trains, and under the saying that they were going to do it in the future. And then recently, I think the head of the TSA said that wasn't the case. They weren't going to go and do buses and trains, but they've already done it. So that's obviously BS. But if this continues, I'm definitely going to take a picture, and I might end up in jail or something.
They
but,
never.
But I
Wouldn't
don't.
be the first time.
Well, actually, it would. I've never been in jail. I've just been arrested.
I thought they took you to holding at least.
No. They left me. They kept me there. They didn't take me in anywhere. But I don't know what else to do. Like, I was thinking about calling the Weehawken police or the mayor, and saying that there were these cops there, and saying that I was from a news organization trying to find out information about what was going on.
You are from a news
get 'em on the
organization.
show.
That's true. But I think if I just go the more direct route, the Julian Heiklin route, and just start taking photos of them while they're on the bus, that might piss off everyone on the bus, but it'll be a more interesting day.
They never let you play with the dog either. And then when they do let you play with the dog, it's the wrong kind of dog. It's not the sniffing dog anymore when they're willing to let you play with the dog.
It's the mauling your face type
Yeah,
of dog.
Exactly. It's not the fun kind of German Shepherd.
I think it's the same
Yeah,
dog.
I'm pretty sure they're the
Oh.
same.
You sure about that?
No, but I mean, like, I imagine like all their dogs are weaponized.
Weaponized canine
Weaponized
unit
What
dogs.
I don't know, but
that shoot bees from their mouth
shoot
and lasers
bees.
from their eyes.
Actually, the last time I saw dogs, it was at a it was at a union rally in Trenton. The cops brought dogs. Then I was like, wow, that's a little intimidating.
it's such a police state thing to have these cops like looking at your stuff, like, just the. I think there's a phrase, the invasion of normalcy, that this police state crap has just invaded normal life. That when you're walking, to or from work out of the bus terminal, there might be a couple of soldiers with rifles standing by the escalator. There might be cops in helmets looking at stuff. This just becomes part of the normal landscape. There might be another security camera here and there, and now they're bringing dogs on. It's just
And it's difficult because for me, I see, like, in the past week or in the past 7 days, I've seen National Guard in the Port Authority. I've seen paramilitary in the subway with the canine, the 4 guys with rifles, and their sergeant, which is their roving paramilitary gang that goes around Manhattan. And today I saw the guys coming onto the bus. So, but in 99% of the rest of the United States, they see none of this ever. Like, even in Manhattan, my manager who lives not far from where we are in New Jersey, so he lives near me. He takes a different route to work, but and so he's in Midtown, he's in downtown. He had never seen those roving paramilitary guys, and he's there every day. And I've seen them regularly, and it's just kind of by chance that you were in the right place or the wrong place at the right time to witness this. And so when I talk to people from other states or even other parts of New Jersey, they just have no idea. Like, there are guys with semi-auto rifles who are standing there with, bulletproof vests and helmets on and dogs, and they're sniffing you as you walk by in the subway. And that's normal. And they just have no concept of this. And so it's difficult to convey, like, just how crazy it's gotten, particularly in Manhattan.
I gotta keep checking this bag here because I'm pretty sure they may have stolen $200 from me. I noticed that my laptop here, the zipper in the bag that it's containing is completely in the wrong place because I didn't leave it that way. I'm gonna keep checking this, but
it's not. What was it? A couple guys like a month ago got fired for stealing like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of jewelry and different things.
There was another one that was actually beneficial, where they were doing they were helping shipments of drugs come in or go out, because they were putting it on after the inspections. They would go onto the tarmac, and then they would load it onto the plane, and they would deal with the other TSA agents or whoever else was on the ground at the tarmacs and destinations, and that's how they would be able to get millions and millions of dollars worth of drugs around. But somebody snitched on them because they didn't get a cut or something, and then that was the end of it. So
It's always how it goes.
it's always how it goes.
Doesn't help that when you checked your bag, Tennyson, you shouted "TikTok, TikTok" and threw it at them. That usually gets your bag searched.
I was nice to the TSA lady. She was cool. So
Did she did you get naked pictures taken of yourself?
no.
Oh, did you get the
No.
pat down?
Nope, no pat down.
Oh,
It's the same as ever. No, they never do anything to me.
never do anything to you, huh?
No.
Did you
Just
offer?
steal your stuff.
It's the same way on the train too. Like I go to the train, they have the baggage inspection at wherever it is, or if they stop people. I never get stopped. I never get inspected. I never get questions asked. And I'm not doing this just because I'm trying to jinx myself. I'm just saying it's just how it is.
You ever want to get harassed? You just got to hang out with Bile. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, most of the time, it's always a minority. It's usually like an elderly person or, a Hispanic or a black guy who isn't dressed particularly nice. I'd be dressed for work. I've got a nice button-up shirt and slacks on. And my hair's done fine, and I get stopped regularly. And I've got a book bag that's absolutely flat, because 99% of the time I have nothing in my book bag. I just prefer to have it with me.
What kind of shoes you wear?
Boots.
Oh,
That's a problem.
that must be it. What we got to do is,
troublemaker.
when we get our sweet Coke money, we've got to use it to buy Coke, and then we will take said baggies of Coke, put double-sided tape on them, and throw them at Bile's back as he walks down the street, hoping he doesn't notice. So then they'll have something to find.
Well,
Are you working on the commercial? No, Bosky, you doing the Coke commercial?
The Coke commercial.
Yeah, someone's got to write a commercial about some good, sweet Coke money.
Yeah, that is a good idea for commercial. I think
Yes.
we've got another commercial we're working on. We're working on a Beards commercial, but that needs to be
Yes,
revised and
yes.
edited.
Yeah, I saw the treatment, so it's pretty good.
my book bag has been used to carry munitions, and I think at one point I took apart a bullet and just had over my book bag, so I'm pretty sure that powder has landed on it. So if I ever get stopped in the subway where they will force you to search your bag, then I could be in trouble.
That'd be a good time.
I washed
wouldn't
off
be-
my bag pretty thoroughly before I started using it for regular trips into the city. I'm like,
It just makes things more exciting, though. I mean, it's like with Rad Geek, right? Rad Geek recently had this encounter with the Texas
Yes.
police, and he said at least out of all of it, he got the pleasure of seeing the cop open up the back of the vehicle and see that there's nothing there, and the disappointment in the cop's eyes. Like in that case, like, oh, we found explosive material on your book bag. This little machine from the TSA told us so, and they open it up and look, and there's like a clipboard.
There's
It
squad
is
in
a
there.
clipboard.
so Tennyson, where are you right now?
I'm somewhere within the United States.
Okay, so
Yeah.
somewhere
Way to be vague.
somewhere that's not here.
Are you on the left
Yes.
coast or the right coast?
It's one of those.
The north coast?
It's on the North Coast.
The north coast. All right.
How long have you been there? Did you just get in?
Just got in, so I'm not going to be here forever, but got to keep moving. Territory is territory.
Oh my God! The caller ID says he's calling from inside the building.
It's like you're misreading the Skype.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's good to have you on. Thank you for calling in.
Glad to be on. All right, so I'll be back one of these days. I'm going to get some interviews with some folks, and so it'll be some interesting things. I got to confer with all of you for questions, and maybe even people in the chat room right now. They can get their own questions into some of these people. So yeah, we'll see.
All right.
All right.
Well, you could always put a post up on the website with all the people who you were interested in interviewing, and then ask for questions there,
Definitely.
or Facebook.
and or Facebook. All right. So later, guys.
Take it easy.
All right, that's it.
All right.
All right. Cool. What else we got on the program today?
What else we got on the program? So last week, a large number of Egyptians swarmed the security services building.
yes.
It's in an incident referred to as the Amdawa leaks, AMNDAWLA, and basically they just like took all of these documents, took all of these videotapes. They even took some shredded material that some people are saying to save that because this can be restored given enough time and with the right tools. And it's interesting to see what's coming up with that. I think the U.S. government was very concerned about this, seeing as Egypt's security services has worked closely with the U.S. to inflict pain on people.
Man, it's a bad time to be any kind of government that wants to keep secrets from your citizens, huh? Yeah. And it's weird how like all these governments do that. Isn't that crazy?
It's almost like they don't want us to know what they're doing to us.
That'd be crazy. Why not?
What they don't want you to know that they've got secret sex tapes of famous people.
Yeah, apparently.
Why would wouldn't that be a good thing? They could like fix their budget problems with that, couldn't they? Like selling that on online.
Well, maybe they are making money for them by not showing.
Oh, you mean as like bribes?
Yeah, blackmail. It's.
I don't think so. I think they'd still get out.
I don't know.
I mean, they get out anyway when they're like in people's homes. Like, what was it the famous Paris Hilton video or something? Didn't someone like break into her house and take that? You would think that some bureaucrat wouldn't be able to hide. If Bradley Manning supposedly can walk in with a blank, Lady Gaga CD and then record stuff, you think they're going to be able to keep the sex tape of Charlie Sheen from getting out?
I don't think anything can keep that out.
Nothing at all. One interesting thing I saw in these leaks was actually talking about Tennyson's not on anymore, but technology. A company that was developing basically a virus that infected people's computers, then allowed you to monitor the computers. It's nothing new, but it was being sold to government agencies. And so you have this security agency in Egypt that they believe could have used this. That would basically propagate. I mean, this thing would propagate until it found its target, and then they would get information from the target that they wanted. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing of looking at. What's the moral implications there and things like that. And knowing that people are, not just people, but governments are that tech savvy and willing to do that sort of stuff, the same kind of crap that spammers and other people who want your personal information do.
There you go.
Thank you, Darian.
Yes, thank you, Darian. Good contribution. High five.
No
fives.
No fives on that one.
Ouch.
Woo.
I was actually seeing what was going on in the chat room, trying to follow this conversation here.
About Paris Hilton?
Just like, I don't know. It looks like there's several strings going on there. So the chat room, there's chatting. There's chatting going on.
There's chatting in the chat room. Who would have ever thought of it?
Rather than what? Sexting?
Sexting. There's pure Google being advertised up there. So
well, yeah, it's the Nexus S cell phone, which I considered getting when I destroyed my HD2, but it just doesn't hold up to some of the other cheaper phones out there. So I didn't get that. I did try. So I've got a MyTouch 4G, and Tech News. The Android 3.0 for tablets was released with the new Zoom, and there's a couple other tablets out there, and people have been porting the SDK to two different platforms. So I'm like, someone released it for the MyTouch, so I'll try it. It's totally unusable on a cell phone. Like I don't even know why people are bothering, because it's meant for a tablet. It's meant for like a 7 or 10-inch screen where you have room to actually touch the screen and do things. They've compressed like something that should be 10 inches down to 3.8 inches, and it surprisingly it doesn't work whatsoever.
That's what she said.
Oh,
wow, on International Women's Day.
Oh,
nice,
true.
Nice
that's
job.
Just...
We had a relatively sexism-free show until that happened.
Not really sure that's sexist.
That's what she said?
Oh.
That's a good point. Yeah.
She might say something like that.
It wasn't intended as a joke. It was a question. There's a question mark at the end.
Isn't it always a question mark?
It's always a question mark.
That's what she said.
Oh God, this is just getting awful.
So go on.
All right. So anyway, here other interesting things. So next weekend, I'm actually taking a exam. I'm going to try to get my technician's class and general class amateur radio license. So basically, what you've got to do is you've got to look through a lot of question sets and learn about different rules and regulations and what kind of emissions you can. That sounds awful. Kind of emissions you can have from your home and all that sort of stuff. And
What kind of brown water you can have.
it's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of it's like kind of creepy. So they talk about the FCC and stuff like that. And my view of the FCC always was, oh, well, you know, these guys in black suits come to your home and they're like, whoa, you can't be blah, 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 doing this, so on and so forth. But it turns out that a lot of the enforcement of that stuff apparently happens with radio amateurs. So they actually have groups set up to monitor the airwaves for transmissions that aren't identifying themselves. And they ask you questions like, well, what's the purpose of, or what is one of the purposes of fox hunts at radio meetups and things like that? And they say, well, you know, it's to get good at using the directional antenna so that you can track down people who aren't following FCC rules. So it's kind of creepy.
So they want to make you an informer, basically.
Yeah, but at the same time, it appears like that the amateur radio, what are they? The Amateur Radio League is moving more towards autonomy and having their own rules and their own ways of enforcing compliance, and they're trying to get more and more away from the FCC. But then on the other hand, they're still kind of like saying, oh yeah, but you know, we'll be your lapdogs and we'll help you and we'll report this and we'll report that and we'll do that sort of thing. Yeah, it's an interesting mix. So here you've got a group that's trying to seek more autonomy and regulate themselves independent of the government. But at the same time, they're making these concessions that they'll perform the following great services for the government because, I don't know, they're worried about losing their power, or I don't know what they're worried about.
Zach says it has gotten to the point that the FCC has stopped funding searching for pirate stations, is almost entirely done by the AARL.
Yeah, so I mean, what's up with that? It's like, oh yeah, they did drop the Morse code requirement, by the way. But yeah, so you get people who have radio equipment, like such as myself, and they're like, well, I got this directional antenna, let me search for signals that shouldn't be there. Ooh, I found one, let me report them? Like, seriously? I mean, who does that?
I guess people like playing Radio Cop. I don't know.
I could see if it was affecting you, if you wanted to use that frequency or something like that, or you had somebody who was just being a real jerk and they were taking up like a ton of bandwidth in some certain area, you know, doing something. I could see then wanting to be able to track the person down so that you could ask them, you know, hey, could you stop doing this, or could we set up a ban plan for this, or, you know, all these different sorts of things, the ways that you can resolve your problem. But if you look at the way the literature is worded, it's like, oh, basically you should be able to track this person down so that then you can report them to the FCC, because, you know, that's obviously what you should be doing as a good citizen rather than resolving your own problems.
Exactly. You know, you got to keep the FCC funded somehow, keep them in business. So, speaking of the FCC now, how exactly would radio broadcasts have, I don't know, but if the regulated is the right word, but how would radio broadcasts, do you think, have developed if there wasn't for the government, you know, setting limits on, or you know, basically with the government regulating the field, you know, setting the boundaries and limits and fixing things like that? Well,
usually the government regulations are either they're not in step with current technology, or they are, or they're kind of insane and don't really make much sense, to the point that it seems a lot of this stuff is actually, there's voluntary ban plans that people come up with to say, all right, there isn't enough order into how this particular area works, so we're all going to agree to work like this. Because when you're working with radio, cooperation helps you a lot more than trying to butt heads with somebody. So if you are trying to set up a, you know, like a digipeater network, that's going to bounce your signal everywhere, and everybody's going to know about it. You're going to need some coordination. You're going to need to come up with a band plan in order to be able to do that. And chances are, since so many people are going to benefit from that they will work with you and work within the limits of that band plan. So honestly, it was kind of weird for me to see that, yes, there is this FCC regulation, and this is what you can use, this is what you can't use. Even in the sections that you can use, people looked at it and they said, okay, there isn't enough structure here. So as a group of individuals, we are going to agree to structure this even more so we can get more communications done and things like that.
So you think voluntary agreements might have been able to solve things?
Yeah, I think it'll cover just about everything. And then, technology gets progressively better and better and better to the point that you can narrow your bandwidth and open more things up. I mean, when you look at way back when you look at Marconi, who's trying to make these transmissions go across the Atlantic, he was doing it with these massive antennas and giant spark gaps, and it was just this huge amount of radio interference. And nowadays we've got it down to much, much smaller amounts of radio interference to still get the same amount of signal across. So it's not like the old spread spectrum, everything is being bombarded at once. Technology improves and you can fit it in a more and more narrow space.
Speaking of experimental radio, did you see that link that Zach posted a while ago about Tesla's research station on Long Island? I think it was. Was it supposed to beam radio waves across the Atlantic? Not beam, broadcast radio waves across the Atlantic. And he was also said he was experimenting with wireless electricity there. It sounded like an interesting location.
Tesla was a cool dude. I mean, if you want to learn a lot about wireless power and things like that, you know what voltage is, right? You stick your fingers in the wall, you're going to get 115 volts AC, and you're going to be pretty toast, right? Tesla had this idea that if you have a strong enough electric field, usually generated with a Tesla coil, which you may know from some like real-time strategy games where they use Tesla coils to kill people. But if you there you go. If you get a strong enough electric field, you can lay a wire across that electric field, and there will be a potential difference. There'll be a voltage in that wire. So just by virtue of the fact that you have a wire that's, say, 15 centimeters long, you can draw 20 volts of power from the field in the air. So one of Tesla's ideas was you have your Tesla coil, you put it in the basement, you generate a huge electric field throughout your whole house, and then you have wireless electricity. So, everything that you want to power has an antenna that is used to power it.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of cool, except it interferes with everything. If your dog wanders in the basement, it'll be grounded through them. Your dog might die. You're talking about a big electric field to be living in all the time. Too.
Modern electronics probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, that wouldn't have developed at all. But I mean, it's an interesting idea.
Well, there you go.
He was a super interesting dude. Another, if you're interested in, you're talking about his radio lab. Marconi's stuff is still up. It's on a naval base. It's now a historic monument. If you follow like 195 in New Jersey all the way to the end by the shore, that's pretty much where it is, like Shark River type area.
Okay.
And it's a museum now, and you can learn all about that sort of stuff too. But I think
giant antennas and stuff.
Oh, there's some huge antennas. I think a lot of what people don't realize, though, when they talk about things like roads, when they talk about things like radio waves and stuff like that, and they say without regulations these things wouldn't work. Usually people aren't aware of the technology and how fast it develops and how fast it changes to meet the needs of the people involved in the areas. So I think with radio, your technology is really pushing towards higher and higher frequencies, and even the microwave range. I mean, you're looking at people who are starting to do amateur microwave stuff, which was unheard of back in the day because the technology to modulate something that fast wasn't there, and that solves a lot of problems, to be honest with you. So I think as the technology improves, you lose a lot of the need for, or what people perceive as the need for, regulation.
Okay, Zach, you posted in the chat room that Tesla's station is still up in New Jersey. Anybody know where that is? I mean, I'm sure we could Google it, but I don't have the Google in front of me, so if you post that in the chat room, that'd be cool. You guys know?
I actually don't know where Tesla stuff would be in Jersey.
So now, what exactly does the word pirating or pirate radio mean in this context? Like, what constitutes a pirate radio station versus something that is not a pirate radio station?
My guess would be, with that usage of the word, basically meaning they are broadcasting on a frequency that they are not allowed to broadcast on, at a power level that they're not allowed to broadcast at, as defined by the FCC.
Yeah, because there are community radio stations which are below a certain power, and I'm assuming in certain ranges, and those are totally legitimate. I mean, generally speaking, you're only going to reach, like, if you have a high vantage point, you might be able to reach like a mile or so, maybe more than that.
Depends on the power,
but
yeah.
it's not. Well, I'm talking about like the high end of a community radio, like legally.
Oh, I don't know.
I think you can get like a mile if you're lucky, or so. It doesn't. So you can set up legal ones, and those wouldn't necessarily be considered pirate, though. You could get caught and get into trouble anyway.
Yeah, there's a neat documentary, I forget what it's called, about pirate radio, which actually is apparently a lot bigger in the UK than it is in a lot of other places. But what they do is they set up these transmitters, and then they have their transmitter on the roof of like an apartment building, and they have an infrared link to their station that they're actually broadcasting out of, so that they have somebody watching the antenna. If the police come and they start messing with the antenna, they take down the IR link and they leave. So basically they're within line of sight of the antenna to actually transmit their signal, but they're able to get away without the cops catching them, because the cops are going to find the antenna. They're not going to find the window that you're actually beaming your information through.
I mean, that seems like a lot of effort for a radio station. Like, how many people are really going to listen to this to make it worth doing?
Apparently, from what I saw in this documentary in the UK, it's a culture, and you have like a lot of listeners. And
I mean, if you're in a populated area and you've got, I mean, even if it's just a couple square miles of coverage, if you're in a somewhat busy area, people just tuning in on their way to work. I mean, you're not having a lot of people on a lot of the time, but you have a lot of people on some of the time, and so you can really reach quite a few people. I mean, I've considered doing something here just because I live in a very populated area, and someone will just pick it up driving by.
Okay, now there's actually on libertyactivism.info there's a page on pirate radio.
Yeah, you can read about it.
That's one place to go. I'm sure the Google has a lot for your
what's pretty
pleasure.
Sweet when it comes to radio signals is when you look at people who really want to blast propaganda, it's almost always shortwave, because that's one of the few things that you're actually going to be able to reach around the globe with, and you're going to get people who have shortwave receivers, which are usually like farming families in underdeveloped countries and stuff like that. Like, if you ever want to reach a large group of people that don't really get reached by television or anything else, shortwave is kind of the way to do it.
So when are we going to have a Thinking Liberty shortwave broadcast?
Well, the problem with that is you're going to need a boatload of power, and it's highly, highly detectable. So you'd be competing with like China, Cuba. Like, you need a place like that where you can just do it and be like, F you, if you want my transmitter, come get it. Which honestly isn't going to happen in our current secret underground bunker.
Okay.
But maybe if we had our own little international island and small international navy to protect it.
Maybe if we didn't...
Sorry, our own non-national island. That's what I meant to say.
Maybe if you didn't blow all the
Coke money
on blow,
then we'd be good.
We'd be good. Someone suggests Somalia. I don't know. That might be an interesting place to set up a station.
How is shortwave traceable? Shortwave bounces off of the ionosphere, right? And you're in a range where you're going to need a lot of transmitting power to have something actually go off of the ionosphere, come back down, and still be a detectable signal. So because you're putting out so much power, it's pretty easy to trace back basically where your signal came from. So if you get to the point where you can receive it before it is done too many bounces, you could just use a directional antenna and find the city that it comes from.
You need to use stealth transmission
There you go.
and broadcast through a wormhole.
Free satellites.
Zach clarified it was actually it's in New York where Warden Cliff Tower, I believe it's called, is Tesla's installation. I think it's on Long Island, but might be an interesting place to travel to sometime.
I definitely think so.
So we're about ready to wrap up this broadcast of thinkingliberty.net. Now, if you like what you hear and you want other people to hear what you hear, you should go to thinkingliberty.net and click on the donate tab and donate some money, because we don't actually get giant checks and we don't actually spend a lot of money at, turnpike rest stops. So, hook us up, or at least spread the word about Thinking Liberty. And whatever you do, you got to find ways to live free in your own life and go out there, think liberty, and do liberty.
Your bags have been searched.
Good night.